especially for the criminals and so on, because then we are in an ultimate society that it's not corrupt and there is nothing. But this will never happen. Of course, we will have a cost of police, and we will have a cost of jails and all those court costs and attorneys' costs and so on.
Dr. Khavari, the way that I'm understanding this is the GDP, the way it's being compiled, is giving a false sense of what's occurring to such a degree that it's not even in keeping with reality.
That's true. That's true. GDP, if they deduct the social costs from that, it will be nothing there. The Chinese, they did one time, and then they found out that they called it green GDP. And then they deducted the cost, and then they found out their economy is not growing at all.
When was this done, and where did you find that out?
This was done, I don't know, some 20 years ago when they first started to grow, and they said, okay, we do it the right way, and then they found out that their economy is not growing because they are deducting the social costs from the total GDP, as I mentioned, environmental costs, healthcare costs, and so on and so forth. And then they decided to adopt the same formula as the rest of the world is doing.
So does the rest of the world use the formula for measuring GDP as you're describing?
Not really. Some, I believe, one country, some little island in some little country somewhere in Bhutan or so. I don't know what they are. They calculate the happiness and so on.
Oh, I heard about that.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I did a segment with Jim Rogers a month ago.
Yeah.
Who wrote A Bull in China, and he still maintains that China now is booming like never before. What do you think about that?
You see, I don't believe that.
Really?
It's going to collapse unless they go with decentralized solar system. And one thing they are doing right, they are reducing the cost of interest. They are providing loans and mortgages to a lot of people. That is, they are doing right. And because the problem with interest is that it compounds. Energy also compounds when it goes through the different stages of production. If a product goes to 5 stages of production, and let's say the cost of energy increased at the first level about $1, when it gets to the 5th stage, it is more like $1.60, and for no reason. And so because it compounds, we have to reduce those costs, and that is what the Chinese are doing. That could give them an edge over the rest of the world. They are a little bit better than us because they cannot do things that we are unfortunately doing in America. I think you have heard about the situation that they sold contaminated milk, and the president or chairman of that company got executed last year or 2 years ago. They are a little bit harsh on the people. So those things doesn't happen as much as it happens here. But still it happens there, because greed is something that you cannot get rid of it. And unfortunately, it is attached to a human being. But we have to do our best, and education is where it comes into action that could correct a lot of these things. If people understand that living in peace, having economic security is much better than having always to worry, and at the end there is no security for anybody.
Do you worry, as you are running for governor, that your Iranian cultural background and heritage will get in the way of people's ability to hear you?
You know, I have been always in minority. Even in Iran, I lived 8 years of my life, I was minority because I was a Baha'i. So I have been used to be in minority. Of course, people, they look at me, but I tell them always, don't worry about my accent, don't worry about my way of speaking, and I'm not a good orator anyway. But please listen to my message. And if I don't express myself properly, please read it, because that is written a little bit better than what I speak. So,
wasn't your father executed in Iran for being a Baha'i?
Yes, my father was executed in Iran for being Baha'i. He was the person who brought the Baha'i faith to India, and he initiated the purchase of the land on which today they have built the Lotus Temple.
Where is that Lotus Temple?
In New Delhi. And it is open to all religion, and they go there and they say prayer, and it's a beautiful, beautiful place, and that is shown on Indian TV as one of the two attractions of India. One is Taj Mahal, and the other one is Lotus Temple in Bahapur, New Delhi.
Off the subject, but connected to the subject, and then I want to get back into your book. I want to talk a little bit more about Toward a Zero-Cost Economy, a little bit about your other book, but also how do you feel and what do you think about the focus on terrorism that's coming back into the mainstream media outlets, radio, television, and print, related to beefing up security, deploying armies, and deploying soldiers to other places of the world right now? Does it concern you? Is it not something a governor should even respond to? Is it an appropriate question to ask?
The question, of course, it's a question, it's on everybody's mind, and if I say I have not thought about it, it would be a shortcoming on my end. I have written, as you may know, 2 books. One was back in 1990, I published it, Oil and Islam, The Ticking Bomb. And then 2 years later, I wrote another book, The Final Reckoning, The Islamic Plot to Destroy the Dollar. Now...
Boy, you're courageous. You're very courageous.
No, I wrote my dissertation about the oil price policy of the OPEC countries. And so when I looked at it, I saw they have a big power there. They can misuse it, actually. And back then I wrote another book in 1968, and the title of that book was The Oil Crisis Threatening the Prosperity of the Western World. Of course, nobody paid attention to that because it was ahead of its time. But I believe personally, America must concentrate on solarizing United States. And we do not need a drop of oil from anybody. Once we do that, they will realize that they have lost their power. And in my books, I was trying to relate that message to the Western world, that please solarize, everything go there, and we don't need anybody. Now, it is a very difficult job to fight these people, because they believe, Islamic world believe, that not all of them, but the radicals, and with whom we are dealing, they believe if they kill non-Muslim, or they get killed by a non-Muslim, they are going to go to heaven. And heaven is in their eyes very beautiful. They get 40 virgin girls and so on and so forth, and a lot of promises are made. So in this case, they can never lose, and you don't deal with that, people. I saw it, what happened to my father. They asked him to renounce his religion, and he didn't do it. He said, I am Baha'i, everybody knows me. How can I renounce it and nobody will believe it? And then they took him and shot him to death. And then they went and charged my mother for the bullet they used to shoot him. And then they asked my mother to do the same thing, and she could keep the house. And she said, I don't want the house, I don't want anything. And she walked out. Now,
wow.
Now, when this thing, you are dealing with this type of people, the best thing is to solarize America, or wherever you can use wind energy or any other alternative energy. And we have plenty of oil to use for raw material, for plastic, for medicine, for anything else. And there is a lot of, for everything what we need, as a raw material, we have plenty of oil and shale